The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles.
You're back.
Dom, great news.
What's the news?
The news about Ben Roberts-Smith.
Oh, God. Well, who's he murdered now?
No.
What? Is he? What? Has he gone to jail?
No,
Look,
Dom.
Charles, the court found that he was lying and that he was plausibly a murderer. Isn't this Ben Roberts-Smith? We talked about this.
And a war criminal.
And a war criminal.
Yeah. I love how you buried the lead.
And also a bad bloke.
Yes.
And it wasn't clear that he was guilty of domestic violence, but the other stuff was so heinous that they figured it wouldn't have made his reputation any worse.
But Dom, no. See, it's all a bit of a misunderstanding.
A misunderstanding?
He's arrived back in the country. He arrived back late last week.
Why? He's in Bali.
He was in Bali.
Shouldn't he have gone to somewhere with fewer extradition treaties?
Laws, yeah. Argentina, perhaps? No.
North Korea?
And he was asked at the airport, a Channel 9 reporter cornered him and was asked, is he going to apologise? And this is the great news, Dom, because listen to what he said.
We haven't done anything wrong, so we won't be making any apologies.
We haven't done anything wrong. He hasn't done anything wrong. We don't have to worry.
I suppose his reputation can't get any worse at this point. I mean, he may as well just keep on brazenly denying. What would be the upside in going, yeah, sorry about the murders?
Well, the thing is, like, there is a possibility maybe he misinterpreted that question, right?
Oh.
You know, we haven't done anything wrong. He was talking about Channel 7 and
I see.
Running
when he ran 7 in Queensland.
Yeah.
Which is unlikely. Yeah. It's unlikely that went off with that. Maybe he meant, Charles, that on the flight he hadn't murdered anybody or committed any war crimes.
I see.
Just in transit from Bali to Australia.
It was like, I'm not going to apologise because I didn't actually murder any staff on the flight over.
I didn't bump anyone else off. Because it's worth noting, Charles, that since we last discussed this fairly juicy topic,
yes,
there was a whole other murder that came out during the inquiry into Australian Defence Forces in Afghanistan. That wasn't one of the ones that Nine had published.
Look, it's hard to keep track. Like, Nick McKenzie, he did a good job. He's a good journalist. But, I can imagine, like, all these war crimes on your desk, you're going to miss one.
Things slip through.
Yes.
More in a moment.
He's not going to apologise.
Sure.
So then the journalist asked, I think sort of almost clarifying, what about all the war crimes you committed, basically, was the gist of the question. This was his answer.
I'm devastated with the result. It's a terrible outcome, and it's the incorrect outcome.
Now, so I'm not sure whether he's talking about the court case or the war crimes.
Oh, sure.
I suspect the outcome, what he's talking about is he's devastated by the fact that he's been found out.
So he's not devastated that he shot someone and kicked them off a cliff and all the other stuff.
No.
The elderly. I think it was an imam that was murdered in the new murder that came to light.
Oh, right. There's an imam.
There was an imam. Yeah, in the
Well, it's lucky
inquiry.
Lucky that that wasn't part of the defamation case because in Australia, killing an imam is reputationally enhancing, isn't it?
I imagine it would be in some quarters. Yeah.
Especially around the corridors of Channel 7. But, so, he says it's a terrible outcome, an incorrect outcome, which, I'm predisposed to trusting what Ben Roberts-Smith has said, given...
Sure. Well, he's a decorated soldier, Charles. He's got multiple decorations.
Perhaps the point is, though, that actually we've misunderstood the whole thing the whole way. And
that seems likely.
Yeah, and the whole thing is that the reason why he sued for defamation is because he is proud of the war crimes he committed. Like, he doesn't see there's anything wrong because it's like, well, I just murdered a few people, committed a few war crimes and lied. You see what I mean? Like maybe the point is that's the sort of thing that in his circles makes him a top bloke.
Oh, he's heroic.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then the journalist actually asked, are you proud of what you've done? And this was his response.
Are you proud of how you behaved when you served Australia?
Of course I am.
Of course I am.
Of course I am.
Of course I am.
So
I think that I think what has happened is there's been this massive, how in movies, especially in comedies, you can have a whole premise that sort of where one person thinks one thing and the other person thinks another thing.
Oh, misunderstand.
And
Well, it goes back to classic Shakespeare, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I mean, maybe they thought Ben Roberts-Smith was like a girl dressed up as a boy in a classic Shakespearean comedy.
Yes, and so there's been a mix-up, which is he was suing on the basis that, I committed all these war crimes and murdered everyone.
Yeah.
But
in a good way.
In a good way.
In a reputationally enhancing way.
Yes, that's right. And therefore, people saying that I didn't do that or, like I shouldn't have done that is the defamatory part of the whole.
Suggesting there's anything wrong.
Yes.
There's anything to be ashamed of with all the murders. So just to clarify the other murder, I've just got the information here. We wouldn't want to miss one out.
Wait a minute. Is this the murder that you're talking about a couple of minutes ago, or is this another new one?
There might be some more. Look, I can't say this is the last one. This is ABC Investigations.
Breaking murders.
So this isn't Channel 9. This is the ABC's come up with this. He directed an SAS comrade to kill an elderly man who was dragged from a mosque in Afghanistan. And the ABC found this out and only reported it once as soon as the Channel 9 thing dropped.
Oh, I see.
By the way, very brave.
They didn't brave. So Robin, they didn't want to attract any heat until.
And it caused a diplomatic incident with the Afghani government. In fact, the Australian government defended the killing of Haji Raz Mohammed from Sola in Uruzgan province, saying that he was an insurgent. The Afghan government, Hamid Karzai, said, no, he was an elderly imam that you've just murdered. I mean, he does seem to like taking out the elderly, doesn't he? I mean, Ben Roberts-Smith is like the second most well-known killer of old people after COVID.
Because I must say, my impression of war heroes was always they go after the hardest person
like
in the
the
pack.
Red Baron.
Yeah, exactly.
The flying ace.
Yeah, like, sort of strapping young 20-something, killing machines is who you're going after, not the sort of old farmer who's got one leg. Like it's sort of...
That's true. He's got an elderly imam, a guy with one leg and another old guy. I mean, give him a second, Victoria Cross.
Anyway, so the question it now turns, he's back in Australia.
Sure.
He's resigned from Channel 7.
Yeah.
What does he do next?
Well, Charles, I see that Susan Kiefel, the Chief Justice of the High Court, is stepping down. I would have thought it'd be fantastic. And why not serve his country on the bench? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, and look, there's lots of elderly people on the High Court.
That's true, actually. He could clear the whole bench.
That's right.
Because there's only one judge here today. Ben, what do you think?
Because apparently there's also going to be a vacancy in the Senate fairly soon.
Oh, yes, that's
Maybe
true.
He could run as a Victorian Liberal senator.
Well, look, I haven't heard of any allegations, apart from the domestic violence and the thing with the girlfriend on the side. I haven't heard of him harassing anyone within Parliament.
It sort of feels like it's probably a fairly good qualification for being in Parliament nowadays.
It does seem to happen a lot.
Yes.
It just seems like as soon as there's one allegation, a whole bunch of other ones come forward. I think we're up to 3 now, are we?
Well, I think
Senator Van.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is that the way it's worked, and I'm not saying it's a good thing. In fact, I'm not saying, definitely not saying it's a good thing, but the way all that sort of sexual harassment stuff has happened in the past is there's been a code of silence between all the parties.
Right.
Which is like, okay, we won't dob on you if you don't dob on us.
Sure.
Sort of mafia style type thing. And I think what has happened is, I mean, I don't know whether you heard on ABC Radio, there was one Liberal MP who was actually talking about how she and her fellow female staffers don't feel safe walking in the halls of Parliament House at night.
Sure. Well, why would you?
No. Yes, but it's sort of... It's shocking that it. Anyway,
I mean,
it's not really
we
funny.
spent the whole week of last week talking about the Brittany Higgins allegations, and they tried to say Katie Gallagher knew a few days earlier, and there was a giant conspiracy. I must say, Charles, if there was a giant conspiracy, it hasn't achieved very much. It seems to be more devastating for Brittany Higgins than anybody else. What's happened? Really?
Yes.
So let's watch the information on that one. But it was very classy, I think, of Peter Dutton to bring up Lydia Thorpe's recent nightclub incident when discussing the matter of one of his own colleagues being accused of sexually harassing her. That was just a classy move, wasn't it?
No, it's all class. Yeah.
And I think what he said was he wasn't going to discuss them.
Oh,
he mentioned that's what you do.
Good.
If you want to remind
Yes.
people about a thing.
See, that's what Ben Roberts-Smith should have done when he got cornered by that Channel 9 journalist at the airport.
Yes.
He should have gone on the attack, not necessarily murdering people, but just like gone on the attack, brought up a whole lot of other things, saying that he wasn't going to discuss them.
The man with one leg, he could had lots of issues. He could have said, one of them being that he only has one leg, presumably. But no, Peter Dutton said Senator Thorpe has lots of issues, and then her activities, and I'm quoting here, in nightclubs involving alcohol, I don't seek to comment on.
Oh, my God.
I don't seek to comment on. And even 3AW slapped that down, Charles. Even 3AW were like, mate.
He should get a job at Channel 7.
Channel 7 Queensland manager, actually, I'll tell you what, he's a Queensland guy. I'd love him. Wouldn't they love him at 7 in Queensland?
Yes, he's got as much hair as Koshy did, so maybe he could.
The Dutster.
The Dutster. There's some great polling out about Peter Dutton.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that he is now less popular
than chlamydia? Than Ben Roberts-Smith?
Ben Roberts. He's as popular as Philip Lowe.
Oh, wow. Did you see, by the way, I saw this on friend of the show, Green Senator Max Chandler-Mather's Twitter. The Reserve Bank, do you know how much they spent on their renovation?
Oh, no.
They're renovating their offices.
Yeah.
You take a guess how much. It's blown up. The budget's blown over.
Well, it would be.
This is from the Fin Review, by the way. Like, this is from a pro RBA source.
This would be at least a couple $100,000. You know,
500.
500 grand.
$500 million to fix up their offices.
What, 500 million?
$500 million.
I thought you were meaning $500,000.
No, $500 million. It's blown out.
I was out by a factor of 1,000.
I mean, they're very, they're sort of broodless offices on Martin Place. They're quite iconic.
$500 million.
$500 million, yeah, on that.
Actually, and I talked to the builder. I talked to the contractor. I live opposite the contractor who's doing that building.
How can you afford a place opposite a guy who's getting $500 million?
I think he's just like a builder on it. But he said the reason why it's so expensive is because the RBA refused to move out of the building. And so they have to keep doing it in stages. And every time, they hold an important meeting, everyone's got to down the drills.
Well,
it
was going to be
headache.
It was approved at $260 million, which raises questions. Right. And it's blown out to nearly double because they found asbestos.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty old.
Maybe Philip should haul out the asbestos. Not wanting to wish
as part of his $900,000 a year pay package. Well, the thing is about the RBA is that, honestly, what do they do besides the meeting? You can't tell me that's driven by data. You can't tell me that they've got a team of hundreds of analysts going, should you put it up, put it down? Like, everyone knows what they're going to do. They don't need, all they need is just the board to meet every 4 weeks, make an annoying, unjustified decision.
Yes.
Everyone tips what they're going to do anyway.
And
they can sack them all.
And you know what their submission to the inquiry about the RBA was?
What was that?
That they wanted less meetings. He said,
too much scrutiny.
Too many meetings once a month.
And just while we're on that, the fact that they always have one in Melbourne on the day of the Melbourne Cup, fuck them.
Fuck them.
The Chaser Report. News a few days after it happens.
I should note that as I've mentioned before, my grandfather was the governor of the RBA, but in those days, I'm sure they did a lot of important work. But he didn't get any of this shit that Philip Lowe's got, possibly because he wouldn't have been drawn on whether interest rates were going to go up or down.
But also, just fucking, if you're going to put up interest rates 12 times, which I'm not saying is good, but if you're going to do that, then maybe just be a little bit apologetic, not smugly laugh at the plight of people who are doing it hard and telling people who've got share households to get more people in their share households. Like literally, I don't know what he thinks. He thinks that, people, I know people who have started renting out their cupboards, right? Like I know somebody who lives underneath stairs, Harry Potter style.
Do you know a place? Can I?
That's right.
I wouldn't mind a spot.
But you're going,
just after the show.
How do you fit more people into share households where there's already cupboard? Like what, you want 2 people in the cupboard?
Well, I'm sure that the people who can't afford to live in Sydney would be very happy to have a lovely space in Martin Place, right in the heart of the city, which is a bit of asbestos. They're not going to mind.
No,
they're going to die young anyway because of the crippling cost of healthcare these days in Australia.
But it doesn't have asbestos anymore. They spent $500 million. I love that idea. Why don't, it's like switcheroo. The RBA goes and sets up in a share house. That's because that's what Philip Lowe.
Oh, yes. The RBA whole
But-
office should move into.
Yes.
Like we started the Chaser newspaper in the spare room of your house.
Yes, exactly.
Your share house.
And that's his own advice. He said, "Oh, look, if you can't afford something, move some more people
What
in."
a good idea. I think the RBA office can be used for affordable housing.
Yes.
And they can move
Yes.
into my garage.
Yeah.
I've got quite a big garage.
You got a big
It's
garage.
a big garage.
Yeah.
It's big enough for they can chip in towards the rent.
But would you be happy with them having a meeting once a month? I mean, that's
They might have
it's
to do that at the pub.
Pretty arduous.
We can book the meeting room at the pub.
Yeah.
Around the corner.
That's the way. Yeah, because there's the whole upstairs.
Yeah,
at the
there's
pub around the corner.
it's fine. You just
Yeah.
buy some drinks. They'd
Yeah.
definitely be buying some drinks. You can't tell me there's a lot of serious deliberation. I'm going to put up? Yeah, fuck it. Well, that's the meeting, isn't it? another 25 basis points? Yeah,
Yeah.
God, why not?
Yeah, okay.
Economy's fucked.
Yeah.
Plus, all the finance journalists think we're going to.
Yeah.
May as well. I don't want to make fools out of them.
Yep.
That's the meeting. See you guys.
See ya.
Here's drinks.
Should we
Yeah.
go to the pub? Oh, we
We're at
already
the
are.
pub. I think that's a much better model for the RBA.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad we've solved that.
We've solved that. Now, what about Ben Roberts-Smith? So Ben Roberts-Smith is back in the country.
Yeah.
I
So-
don't understand what he thought he'd find here.
Well, this is the thing. So the journalist asked him, "What next? Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing next?
What's the? Are you gonna? What are you gonna do?" And this was his reply.
There's not much more I can say about it. We'll just have to work through it, and I'll take the advice as it comes.
I'll take the advice as it
Oh,
comes.
you know what, though? He could make some money contracting. I mean, he needs money, right? He needs money. He's got skills.
Yeah.
Assassin. He wouldn't do it subtly.
No,
And he'd
And
probably,
he would
other
only-
people would be involved.
it would only be like for over 65 cripples.
Over 65 cripples or imams. And the thing that would be complicated, Charles, is that
Yeah.
much of Australia, much of the Commonwealth of Australia in which we live is flat. And he's not good in those conditions.
No.
He then needs cliffs.
He needs cliffs.
If you're in Sydney, like let's say Watson's Bay or something where there's a nice cliff, no, he's your man.
I think that's right. Maybe he could knock off half the eastern suburbs.
That's another way to address
Yeah.
the housing crisis. I mean, honestly, if you live near the Gap, be very careful in Sydney.
So this is it. We get fuck Philip Lowe. We get Ben Roberts-Smith to solve the housing crisis by getting him to assassinate all the rich cunts in the eastern
I mean,
suburbs
if Ben
living near
Roberts-Smith turns
cliffs.
up at a RBA board meeting, I'd be very worried on behalf of the board. The other thing is they're all being replaced. So there's an advisory board that's coming in that's going to set the interest rates, right? So the RBA board,
Yeah.
they're just going to govern the bank. What does the bank even fucking
No,
do?
it's all they're going to look after the admin. Talk about humiliating sort of. They're going to be like any other board where it'll be like, okay,
the oversight.
should we just, yeah.
Well, they're not
should-
even doing that. Like, does our old building from the 50s or 60s or whenever it's from have asbestos in it? I don't know. Maybe someone should check in case the cost blows out. Great job, RBA board. I know, if you see it, it's quite a beautiful old building. It obviously has asbestos. Like, there's nothing. It is so old that it'd be amazing if anything was in there that wasn't made out of asbestos.
Can I just ask though?
Yeah.
Like, you know how climate change is a real crisis?
I've heard this.
It's palpably.
I haven't seen it with my own eyes. but I've heard
palpably obvious to everyone that it's a crisis.
it. Yeah.
Same with housing, crisis.
Crisis.
Palpably obvious
To some.
to some. RBA, crisis.
Not doing great.
Absolute shithouse. Shit show. Very obvious, right? Labor hasn't done anything about anything. Like, none of those things it's doing anything about.
Charles, that's very unfair.
I
You've
think we assume that Philip Lowe's going to go because he's doing a very fucking obviously bad job. But given the track record of Labor so far, I'm thinking he's probably going to be reappointed.
No.
He's,
Look,
he's the climate crisis of banking.
Charles, I think you're wrong, and I'm gonna explain why. I think there's a clear candidate to replace Philip Lowe. It's a man who needs a job, whose reputation could not possibly go any lower. If we're going to hate on the RBA governor, which is quite a new thing, by the way, I think Philip Lowe is the first one who is universally despised.
Yes.
Ben Roberts-Smith.
Yes.
He doesn't have to do it. He just have to turn up.
Nah.
Just interest rates up. Oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's go kill some old cunts.
Yeah.
It's just to do that. And then no one's going to hate him anymore. He's perfect appointment.
Yep.
Perfect. And Philip Lowe, look, I'm just going to say, if he's not going to resign, he might find the problem's taken care of. I certainly hope he's not any kind of imam, because if so, he's fucked.
Our gurus from Roe, we are part of the Iconoclast Network. See you next time.